Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adikavaye muhyanti yatsurayah Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam Satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita ketavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridya Varudyate Trakritibihi Shushushubhistatkshana. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. Our family has not been physically well for around a week now. This usually happens when we come to Cleveland and leave Cleveland. I was joking with the Cleveland folks that I hadn't gotten COVID for 2.5 years. And then the first time I went to Cleveland, I got COVID. And then everyone else got COVID too. And not feeling well, everyone can relate to this. You really feel like you're held back. You can't exercise as well. You don't digest as well. You can't think as well. Every one of us is born with technical diseases. These are called granthis. And we've been oriented towards these granthis, these knots, in different ways. I'm going to share a different orientation with all of you today. One of the granthis or knots in our personality that hold us back is a karma granthi. It is this impetus to always work, to always do, to always become. In Devi Mahatmya, this is a lovely map that's directed towards our universal mother. This is explained by the Rakshasas, Madhu and Kaitaba. I'm sure you would have heard this before about Madhu and Kaitaba. What does Madhu mean in English? Honey or sweetness in our personalities, that's likes. I like when the sun shines. I like eating at this restaurant. And Kaitaba symbolizes bitterness, that which is not tasty or dislikes. Madhu and Kaitaba are defeated or destroyed by a beautiful prayer from Devi Kalika. Now for us, that beautiful prayer is Shravana. Shravana, listening. The more we listen about self-development to our Shastra, our likes and dislikes, they become dismantled, they're defeated. The technical word for what likes and dislikes do to us is abhavana. Abhavana is, it is impossible for me to be beyond likes and dislikes. It's impossible for me to be independent. The main point I'm trying to make, even though everything I'm sharing is so beautiful, the main point I'm trying to make is about what Shravana can do. Only after this knot, the karma granthi, is cut, then we can move on to the second granthi, the second knot, which is the kama granthi. Why is it that we're always working? Because we're always desiring. I have this sankalpa, I have that plan. In Devi Mahatmya, this is symbolized by Mahishasura. Mahishasura. Mahishasura is this asura that keeps on taking different forms, correct? Our desires are the same way. We have a Sunday desire, a Monday desire, a Tuesday desire. We have an AM desire, a PM desire. Taco Bell's the fourth meal. So we have those kinds of desires also. And how is Mahishasura destroyed? By Bhagavati Lakshmi, a form of Bhagavati Lakshmi. Now I'm consciously sharing this because Bhagavati Lakshmi is the symbol for Sampatti. Patti means wealth. Sampatti, inner wealth. The more inner wealth we have, like patience and contentment and so on, then doesn't that destroy our desires? The technical disease that this kama granthi presents to us is asambhavana. Abhavana, I don't even know what self-development is. Asambhavana, now I know what self-development is, but I don't think I can do it. I don't think this applies to me. This can manifest in our lives through manana. Manana. When you start to reflect on who you were at the beginning of Vedanta and Bhagavata 4.5 years ago, and now you're reflecting on this semester being completed, you've changed as a person. And the more you reflect on that, the more this becomes a possibility. Beautiful? This is just a taste of this. And all of this I'm sharing is because what have we been doing? Today is hour 149. We have been engaged in Shravana of Bhagavata. And this has been zoomed into by Manana through the lens of Vedanta. Checking in with all of you. Can you hear me and see me? Please share in the chat because all of you are not clear to me right now. Okay. Please keep updating me in the chat if it's not audible. Okay? Focus is audio. Good. We have been engaged in this fight against Madhu and Kaitaba, against Mahishasura, now for 149 hours. I hope all of you are feeling more free. Like a physical sickness holds us back, this metaphysical sickness is much more severe, and I hope you can feel all of this being cut. In the 11th skanda, Bhagavan is passionately sharing with Rishi Uddhava about his dhamma, about his nature. This skanda began with Rishi Uddhava asking Bhagavan Krishna if he can come with him. And Bhagavan said, you can't come in an ordinary way. For you to come with me, you have to know my nature. And that's why the 11th skanda is so filled with teachings. A really lovely facet of what we've explored in this skanda is, as you associate, so you think, so you develop. Our association impacts us in a very trickle-down effect. And Bhagavan specifically shared, associate with sadhus. And if you can't do that, then associate with sattva. And if you do, you will be remarkable. Rishi Uddhava, he is intellectually appreciating this, and Bhagavan wants to give him more. Bhagavan demonstrates what happens with such an association, and that's shared in chapter 23, which is our Bhikshu Gita, where this personality was treated in the most poor way, in the most rough way, but he never reacted. Yatiksha and Sthane, he endured and he accepted. I want to revisit what happened to this Brahmana who became a bhikshu. His ladder of fall began with lobha. What is the English word for lobha? Greed. This is called lobha anartha, how greed causes this fall. For your reference, this is chapter 23, verse 18. I've shared this twice. I'm sharing it one more time. Steyam himsanritam dambaha kama krodasmayo madaha bhedo vairam avishvasaha samsparda vyasanani cha. In this, when I had read this to you last time, I shared that there was 13 vices that come from greed. As an example, one is avishvasaha. Anyone know what that means in English? No, not trusting or being suspicious. Greedy people are always suspicious that people are going to take what they have. Yes. I see that with my children with chocolate. You know, they don't even want to show them the box of chocolate because they feel the other one is going to take it, and it happens. So theirs is more of a reality. Now, I figured out what the last two are, because I had mentioned there's 13. The shloka says there's 15. The last word was a really poetic word. Vyasa means addiction. So here it says vyasanani cha. That means addiction in 3 ways. Addiction to articles, addiction to beings, addiction to circumstances. That makes up the 15. Okay? And why I call this poetic, because vyasa, if you just lengthen the middle A to a long one, it becomes vyasa. Vyasa is not the one who's addicted. Vyasa is the one who's free. So be careful what you pray for. I pray to Rishi Vyasa. You will win a trip to Las Vegas. So this is how this chapter is completed. And I really want us to take this summary away, because another chapter like this is coming up. It is grace that causes us to practice. We all know so much. Like when I talk to you about this Granthi and that Granthi and Madhu and Kaitaba and so on, we all know this. But to practice this, that grace is which causes us to practice. This Brahmana had everything outside, but wasted it. Then how all of a sudden did he start to practice? It was grace. We continue to chapter 24. Chapter 24 is a chapter that focuses on Maya. There's so many chapters on Maya, but it's like Bhagavan Krishna's reviewing Bhagavata. He's already taught a lot of this, but he's reviewing Bhagavata. I'm on verse 3. This is Bhagavan Krishna who's sharing with Rishi Uddhava. Tanmaya phalarupena kevalam nirvikalpitam vanmano gocharam satyam dvividha samabhavad brhat dvividha samabhavad brhat. Sharing this in English. Tat, which means the infinite, Maya phalarupena, the infinite, then as if expresses as Maya. Kevalam nirvikalpitam, even though infinity is aloneness, if infinity doesn't change. Vanmano gocharam satyam, this truth is beyond speaking, the mind, the senses. Dvivida samabhavad brahat, but this infinitude is expressed as dvivida, shared in a simple way. Infinity plus Maya equals separation. When infinity is shared through this prism of Maya, what starts to manifest then? Separation. Think of this as this white light goes through a prism, then what happens to that white light? Becomes the rainbow. So Bhagavan Krishna is sharing this with Rishi Uddhava. I had shared last week that this chapter focuses on Sankhya, and Sankhya is trying to understand Maya. I've also shared with you that it's like Bhagavan Krishna is reviewing Bhagavatam. Sankhya Yoga was already taught by Rishi Kapila to his mother, Devi Devahuti. And that's why I have pointed out how much Bhagavan loves Rishi Uddhava and us, that he wants us to come to his Dhamma. So even though this was taught, maybe he feels we've forgotten this, so he's reteaching this. The main messages revolving around this verse is, there is just consciousness. There is just that white light. When you add this factor of Maya, then there's separation. But in terms of infinity, there is no other. And so what verb comes with this understanding? Be. What is consciousness doing? It's not doing anything. It is being. Here in Niagara Falls, it is cool, but it is sunny. Do you think the sun is shining on Niagara Falls? Is it the sun shining on Niagara Falls? See, they all know it's a trick question. Obviously, technically it is, but the sun doesn't know Niagara Falls. It's just shining. It's not engaged in the verb to shine on Niagara Falls, correct? It's just shining. So for us, the best verb is be. That's the closest verb to consciousness. Now, how do you get to that? It requires humility, correct? For me to have the humility that the sun doesn't know who I am, leave alone is shining on me. We all think we're special, but that specialness doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. Another insight is Maya means collective forgetfulness. What is the Sanskrit word for individual forgetfulness? Not Maya, but starts with an A. Avidya, correct. Avidya. So Maya, we all forget. When Vivek forgets, that's avidya. Now this Sanskrit word vid does mean to know. So avid does not know, but vid also means existence. So what does avid mean? Does not exist. So Maya does not exist. Do you feel that? Everyone's nodding right now. That's Maya. You nodding is Maya. But it's so important to note these details because if Maya doesn't exist, you don't have to deal with the symptoms. Yes. In a rough example, if I'm feeling really sick and I think that I have cancer, but then I realize I don't have cancer, then those symptoms become so light then, correct? I don't have to deal with them with an oncologist and so on. When infinity passes through Maya, it becomes separation. Another word for this is Prakriti. When Purusha expresses, it becomes Prakriti. A good English word for Prakriti for me is processing. Prakriti is that which is processing. Prakriti is that which is processed. Now, when you reflect on this, if something is processed, that means there's a more real substance to it. Correct? That will come in the next chapter. What is a sattvic food? Sattvic food is that which is not processed, is ready to eat. Ready to eat from the ground, not a box or a shelf. What is rajasic food? Processed food. Make sense? So what did you have for breakfast? Prakriti. What should you have for breakfast? Purusha. You can start to change that terminology. Another cool insight in this, around this verse is, for the expression of Maya being gunas, and that chapter is coming up. When you engage in the lower gunas, then you are born into lower dimensions. When you engage in the middle guna, you're born in the middle dimension. So that shows that we're quite rajasic. And if you engage in the higher guna, you're born into higher dimensions. But then Bhagavan goes on to share, if you add yoga, tapa, and sannyasa in your life, you're born in the highest region. So far, so good? But then Bhagavan finalizes this by sharing, if you go beyond the gunas, that's where you come to live in Vaikuntha with me. You come to live in Vaikuntha with me. That going beyond the gunas is possible through bhakti. Superior to yoga, tapa, and sannyasa is bhakti. That's where you stop traveling. I've been interacting with a lot of people who have corporate jobs, and I was sharing with them that cartoon from the New Yorker. I'll share it with all of you again. There's a meeting going on in an office space, and there's a lady who comes in with her briefcase, and she says, "Sorry, I'm late. I was busy being happy at home." I was busy being happy at home. That so many banks are forcing the companies who have leased out all of this office space. They're making those workers come back. It's like this economic trickle-down effect. And I keep sharing with everyone, but isn't the purpose of life to be happy and not financially sound? And I was sharing with them that it was so good when I didn't have to travel. When I didn't have to travel, my days were so regular, and so on and so forth. It feels good not to have to travel, correct? Now imagine not ever having to move between dimensions ever again. You just find a permanent home in Vaikuntha. That would be lovely. How to do it? Bhakti. One more verse. This is verse 24. And this will complete this chapter. Yastu yasyadirantascha save madhyama cha tasya san save madhyam cha tasya san vikaro vyavahararthaha yatha tejasa parthivaha. What is a way that we can really pierce through Maya? That's shared in this verse. Bhagavan tells Rishi Uddhava, Yaha, that which is the cause, tu, and, yasya adihi, and antaha. That which is there in the beginning and that which is there in the end. Okay, that's the first quarter. Vai madhyam tasya san. If it's there in the beginning and there in the end, it's also there in the middle. Vikaraha, vyavahara arthaha, and any change, that change is functional, is for society. Yatha, and here's your example, Tejasa parthivaha, that which is made from gold and earth. Okay. When gold comes from an ore and becomes this pure substance, it's gold in the beginning, correct? Now, everyone, show me your gold ornaments right now. I don't know if this is gold, but it sort of looks gold. Yes? So I have an earring, someone has a necklace, someone has a toe ring. And then if all of that is brought back to a goldsmith and the names and forms are taken away, what remains? Gold. So what was it in the middle also? Gold. And parthivaha, all that's made from earth. Can you point to me the things in the room around you that are made of earth? Point to them. I'm glad someone's going like this. This is also made of earth. Correct. See, we think everything else is made out of earth. You are made out of earth. So in the beginning, there was earth. At the end, there was earth. In the middle, there's earth too. That's why Prithvi Seva Sangha makes sense, correct? It's looking after oneself. Okay, here's a few insights. All depends on existence, awareness, joy, but specifically existence. That's what Bhagavan Krishna is trying to share with Rishi Uddhava. There is only existence. What happens when you forget that you are existence? What vice develops in your personality? Fear. Fear of aging, fear of dying, fear. I was interacting with a seeker who is new to our community. And though by training, she is a cardiologist, and an advanced cardiologist, but she just doesn't understand how someone cannot be afraid of aging and dying. And as I was listening to her, it showed to me how incomplete our education is. I'm not a cardiologist. I pray I'll never have to see a cardiologist in my life, but I am going to die. I know it doesn't look like I'm aging, but I am going to die. See, that's what should be taught, correct? All depends on existence. And I'd specified to all of you last week, this body is going to become food where it will become, and it comes from seeds, and seeds will become, and seeds come from earth. Imagine this week you treated this body like earth. Would that make you more reasonable or unreasonable? I think we'd all become more objective then, correct? There's earth, there's earth. Like, we don't walk around Chinmaya Dhara and say, that's the most beautiful patch of earth, and that's ugly earth over there. It's all earth. Bhagavan shares, the more vichara that one engages in, the less vikshepa one engages in. What does vichara mean? Reflection. What does vikshepa mean? Projection. The more you reflect, the less you project, the less you expect. A disease that has become quite prominent due to us all feeling isolated is overthinking. How many of you have this disease that you overthink? Some of you are overthinking right now. What did he say? Now, when I say overthinking, I mean in the wrong way. I overthink Vedanta. I should slow down. This overthinking is an expression of vikshepa. So how do you stop overthinking? Reflect. I told all of the people in Cleveland, we had a small exercise on public speaking. I said, you should never be afraid of public speaking. Nobody's listening to you. Everyone's in their own head. Nobody's listening to you. So what's there to be afraid of? It's true though, correct? Here's where you say, no, Vivekji, we are listening to you. But in general, that's the truth. And Shri Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna shares, a sign of one who reflects is they become more content. He shares that the greatest are those who are content. How did they become content? Through reflection. My final thought, I'm actually going to read for you from Swami Tapasyananda. I'm happy that many of you have the book that I'm reading. There's a prologue to every chapter. This is the prologue for the 24th chapter. Brahman persists unchanged from the beginning to the end of the series of changes involved in creation and dissolution. That he must have therefore existed in the middle too, and that he is therefore the one reality of which the effect conditions are all only temporary phases. What Swami Tapasyananda is sharing with us, if it's not so clear, what's in the beginning and in the end is in the middle also. And if what I just shared is still not clear, label less. Label less. Puja Swami Tejamayana has always taught, and I'm understanding it more now. When people label, they're often burned by those labels. Like, if I say this is my best friend today, tomorrow she may do something different, then that label, really I have to retract it, correct? Living is not so definitive, so no need to assign such labels. Okay, we are going to cover another chapter, so if you need to get up and stretch, you do it. These are our last classes. I have to keep moving. We're on chapter 25 now. Bhagavan wants Rishi Uddhava to come with him. He gave this demonstration in chapter 23 about someone who is practicing sthane. They are accepting. In chapter 24, Bhagavan is sharing what Maya is. This is what takes you away from me. Now in chapter 25, Bhagavan shares that if you are unable to deal with Maya, then you have to deal what's on top of Maya first, which is the gunas. Chapter 25 relates to the gunas. I'm reading verse 19. Edhamane gune sattve devanam balam edhate asuranam cha rajasi tamasyuddhava rakshasam. Edhamane means when it increases. Gune, the guna, sattva. When sattva grows, devanam balam edhate, then one becomes more like a deva. The more sattvic you become like a deva, one who's lighter. Asuranam cha rajasi, and the more rajasic one is, then one becomes like a asura, selfish, short term. And then tamas, rakshasam, one becomes a rakshasa, one who is vicious. So the gunas will decide if we are like devas or asuras or rakshasas. That's what's shared here. Again, there's Bhagavan. If you don't get Bhagavan, you feel Maya. If you don't get Maya, you feel the gunas. In the beginning of this chapter, Bhagavan elaborates on characteristics of these gunas. I'm only going to give you 3 of them. A characteristic of sattva. Think about it, rate yourself. It is self-sacrifice. A prominent characteristic of sattva is self-sacrifice. How many of you, by a show of hands, feel you're strong in this? You're self-sacrificing. Okay. I see one hand up and a lot of head scratching right now. Okay, one sign of rajas is demonstrativeness. Demonstrativeness, which really means showing off. Someone who's always talking about what they're doing. Demonstrativeness. Like teenage boys. You know, they're the coolest people and they have to say that they're the coolest people too. And one sign of tamas. Vain expectations. Now I'll ask all of you, how many of you relate to vain expectations? Many more hands. So Bhagavan Krishna has called you a Rakshasa. Yes? These are not Vivek's words. I'm speaking in English. This is all in Sanskrit. See, that's why I give you these verses so you can't point back at me. There's my precedent, my waiver that I never said it. Bhagavan said it. Let me make this more personal. You are sattvic when you feel you can be happy. A sign of sattva is you feel you can be happy. A characteristic of rajas is you feel you can create happiness. And a characteristic of tamas is you feel you can't be happy. Make sense? I can't be happy. I can create happiness, but the best is I can be happy. Some other insights that Bhagavan shares. The gunas only affect you if you're attached to them. If you're not attached to the guna, then you're not affected by it. And Bhagavan says to not be attached in general and not to be attached to any guna, this is how I am. So if you start to live like this, I will manifest in your life. And I shared this with all of you on Thursday in Meaningful Mornings, that Bhagavan Rama is Nirguna Sukha. Nirguna means unconditional. Sukha means joy. This, and I even specified saying this joy is not even dependent on sadhana, not even dependent on that. So we also have to go deeper than sattva guna. We have to go deeper than sattva guna. One more verse. I'm on verse 24 now. This will be our last verse for this class. This is a verse about how do you know what guna you are in relation to your body? Verse 24. Kaivalyam satvikam jnanam rajo vaikalpikam chayat prakritam tamasam jnanam manishtam nirgunam smritam. Kaivalyam satvikam jnanam. Satvik jnana is when you feel that this body is an equipment. When you feel that this body is an equipment. Rajasic jnana is when you feel this body is changing. And tamasic jnana is when you feel that there's nothing but the body. So sattva, I have a body. Rajas, I have a body and I am the body. There's a mixture there. Tamas, I am the body and that's it. And Bhagavan finally shares, manishtam nirgunam smritam. But the jnana that is beyond this is I am not the body. The jnana that's unconditional is I am not this body. Okay? So I'm sharing this one more time with everyone. Our relationship with our body is a fine way for us to understand what our evolution is. So if I ask you, who are you? If you feel you're only the body or you're the body and, or you have a body, that's a gauge of your evolution. Then Bhagavan shares a thought about food. He shares sattvic food is that which is obtained easily. That means food that is natural. Rajasic food is that which is delightful at the time of eating. Delightful at the time of eating. His point is, it's not delightful with digesting and so on. So a good example of that is hot sauce. Delightful in your mouth, nowhere else. And tamasic food is, he shares unhealthy, not just unhealthy for you, but unhealthy for all, specifically the earth. Okay? And now one more to help us understand which guna we are. Bhagavan gives us a framework with pleasure. Someone who has the quality of quietness, they find their pleasure through contemplation. They're the ones who sign up for every silence retreat. Yes? The Rajasic personality, the person who's aggressive inside, they find their pleasure through contacts. Contacts. They always need to talk to someone. Their sense organs always have to do something. And the tamasic personality, the one filled with darkness, they find their pleasure through consumption. Always about what do I get having more, consuming more. Contemplation, contact, and consumption. Okay. I know a lot was shared today. I covered chapter 23, 24, 25. But Bhagavan will only be alive for a few more chapters. We have to really know his Dhamma. The next chapter, which we are not covering now, is a special chapter. This is known as Aila Gita. We'll be exposed to one more Gita from Srimad Bhagavata.